Welcome to episode 4 of Getting to Grips with Tread Media. This episode is presented by Sani Bicycles. Later in this episode, we're going to be chatting to Glen Haw, the founder of SANI2C, that world famous mountain bike stage race. But in the meantime, we're going to chat briefly a little bit about our 2024 South African Mountain Bike Survey presented by Garmin. We've been running this survey for the last 6 years, and it has delivered some interesting results. So now that we've had, not all of the categories have been running for 6 years because it started out as a race survey and then the lockdown came. So there was no more races for a while. So we changed it to a general mountain biking survey. So pretty much from 2020, it's been a general mountain biking survey, and we have 5 years of great content and stats to reflect on. So we're going to do that a little bit in our episodes going forward. Chatting to Cade today about a couple of elements. So Cade, the breakdown of geographic location of mountain bikers in South Africa is interestingly mostly in 2 provinces.
Yeah, it's I suppose it makes the most sense to me because these provinces are the most likely to have mountain biking trails. Just with sort of the demographic as well. Like obviously Gauteng is number 1, and then Western Cape is number 2. And Gauteng is great for endurance training and endurance riding, and also the people, they just like to ride, I think. And Western Cape obviously has some of the best trails in the world with the mountains that they have. So I think it doesn't come to too much of a surprise. I do think Mpumalanga has some great trails, and they should be ridden more.
Yeah, agreed. So the stats actually show that 47.56% of South African mountain bikers are in Gauteng, 30.34% are in the Western Cape, and 9.02% are in KwaZulu-Natal. Yeah. And then the rest are sprinkled. So as you say, Cade, great trails in some of the provinces. Unfortunately, not a lot of mountain bikers. So I guess, visiting mountain bikers go and enjoy those trails, but they don't have huge mountain biking populations in those provinces. Yeah. Between the Western Cape and Gauteng, almost 80% of South Africa's mountain bikers. So quite an interesting stat, and hasn't really changed too much in the last few years. There has been occasionally a little bit of a rise in the Western Cape numbers, and I guess that's people semigrating from Gauteng and going to live near really, really cool trails. The next thing I wanted to chat about was the split between men and women. Currently, in 2024, the split was 20.23% women and 79.77% men. So essentially a fifth of mountain bikers that took our survey are women. Yeah,
I mean, I think that does make the most sense to me. It doesn't come as a surprise. But I definitely think we should try to get some more women into the sport, taking surveys.
Yeah. I mean, it has fluctuated a bit over the last few years. We were up at 24% actually the previous year, and down to 20 this year. But when we even it out over the last, or average it out over the last 5 years, we're sitting at 20.59% women, and I think race numbers reflect that. Not the hardcore races, the very difficult stage races, they pretty much around 15%, but most other races are looking at 20 to 25% women. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's just always going to be a male dominated sport.
Yeah, and I think it will grow in the next few years, the number of women, especially with all the role models around. And I think it's such a cool sport for women to get into as well. It's a great community, and they can push each other. And just from a guy's perspective, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, safe places to ride is key, and I think there's an increasing number of those. And obviously, more media focus. Our Tread Femme brand, which is run by Joe, is focused heavily on promoting women's mountain biking. So
she's doing a great job as well.
She's doing a great job. And then in every edition of our annual survey, we ask about sports supplements. Last year, 71.23% say they take sports supplements all the time, and 16.33% say they take sports supplements sometimes. So not surprising, really, the majority of mountain bikers take sports supplements.
Yeah, I mean, it being an endurance sport, supplements are definitely needed. And it's so practical. I mean, you can't be eating potatoes and rice on the bike. You need to take something in your bottle. You need to take a few gels or a couple bars. They're so small, and they are like packed with everything you need. So it's so practical.
I mean, you can break sports supplements down really just to energy and recovery assistance, and I guess that's what's important here. Looking at the brands, Biogen has come out on top again, 23.62% ahead of 32GI, 20.49%, and USN 10.04%. So the three main brands actually have been the three main brands since we started the survey. But I see that there were over 48 brands in total were named. So it's a competitive market.
Yeah, it's huge.
So if you want to find out more about and dig into the details of our annual survey, which is presented by Garmin, go onto our website, and we've got the results pinned at the top of the page, so it should be easy to find. And we're going to start preparing to chat to our guest, Glen Haw. Our featured product for this episode of Getting to Grips is the Zini 29er mountain bike. Now, you might not have heard of Zini much, but do you remember the Zini brand at all?
Vaguely. Yeah.
Okay. It was more of a road bike brand in the 1980s, steel frame road bikes. And it really, it kind of faded away. But
they were affordable. I remember that.
Yeah. And, there was a lot of locally made road bikes in those days because there wasn't a lot of bikes that we could bring in from overseas because of sanctions and things. So Umko, which is the biggest bicycle distributor company in South Africa, or bicycle industry distributor, they revived the brand a couple of years ago. So they've got kids bikes and mountain bikes.
The kids range, yes.
Yeah, you've seen the kids range. Yeah. Really affordable, well made, durable, and they've also got a couple of 29ers, a couple of hardtails, and the one is the Elite and the other one is the Trail. And they're really well priced. The Elite sells for 15,000 Rand and the Trail for 11,000 Rand.
That's really great value for money.
It's great value when you consider that there's a 1x drivetrain on both from Shimano. The cheaper one, the Trail, has a 1x10 drivetrain, and the other one, the Elite, has a 1x12 drivetrain, also from Shimano. They've both got hydraulic disc brakes from Shimano and an air fork, which is lockoutable.
And that's ideal for somebody wanting to get into the sport. Not wanting to invest or overinvest initially in case they don't like mountain biking. So I think that's a really good option.
Yeah, so it's another local brand that's done a really good job of creating a mountain bike that is well priced, durable, reliable. And you can check out these bikes, the Zini 29er bikes on zinibike.co.za. So welcome to Glen Haw, the founder of SANI2C, to Joburg, first of all, and to our Getting to Grips podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, it's great that you're innovating and doing stuff like this. I think podcasts are really taking off, and I know when I'm sitting in my tractor, sometimes I listen to various podcasts. Let's wish you luck, and I'm sure it's going to work out in the long run.
Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. So tell us, there's probably a lot of interviews that you've done over the years, and a lot of people probably know a lot about the story and the development of your race, which is a pioneering event in many ways. And what do you feel, was there any time when in the early days that you thought maybe this is too big a thing to bite?
No, never, and still not. I mean, you would think now, 21 years, that you might start thinking, okay, how am I going to? But I'm not letting go, and I'm probably at fault of being the boss. I just am, and I've worked for myself all my life, and Sani's been a baby and a dream and a passion of mine. So I've never crossed my mind. I mean, obviously we need help, and it's great having the kids involved in it and involved in sport and really understanding the sport itself, because so it's great they're there, but it hasn't got to the stage where I think, okay, we need a little bit of help now. So although we do get help with them on the media side and sponsors and partners, and I'm really into the community and the route and working with farmers and working with the local communities and being on the ground more than being.
And that's a key thing for your event. I mean, during that COVID break, it never once occurred to you that you wouldn't have your 2020 edition, and you eventually had it in December.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we had to delay it. I mean, for various reasons. That we were hoping COVID would be over, which it wasn't really. But also, there are a whole lot of other events, and you've got to respect them and not sort of stand on their toes. And I was expecting them to sort of make some sort of plan. But so we moved it to December because there weren't stage races basically during December. So after One to Wales, there was nothing really. And that was the reason why we moved it there, knowing very well that it's going to rain and it's going to be muddy. But you know what?
Yeah.
Those events that are like that are the ones that you remember, the ones when there's bright sunshine and the trail's really nice. You might really remember some of the really good parts, but it's, in life you remember the extremes. You don't remember.
Struggles.
Yeah. And, being a dairy farm, we got to milk our cows Christmas Day, snowing, no Eskom, it never crosses our mind that you just make a plan and put a plan, and being a dairy farm even more so, so it never ever crossed my mind, okay, we can't do it, we're not going to do it, we can't do it, we needed to make a plan to somehow do it, because there's so many organizations that actually rely on Sani. It's not a business that I need, it's a business that a lot of communities need. So for that reason we couldn't let them down, so many organizations and big organizations wouldn't operate, They
So essentially almost a 300-kilometer stretch of where your route goes. Everybody along there, I suppose, benefits in some way. Everyone who lives along there benefits or goes to school.
No, absolutely. And they have to, there are those pillars there. The riders obviously come first. And as long as they're happy, then we're happy, but we've got to keep the landowners happy, because if they're not benefiting out of it, there's no ways they're going to let us sort of change their operations, because a lot of them, busy people.
Yeah.
And it's risky, so you'll get big corporates like Sappi and Mandy that it's a massive risk to them, to having 4,000 people ride through their plantations.
Yeah.
And, so if they're not benefiting out of it, or they don't see the communities benefiting, or the communities where they work benefiting, it would have never been sustainable, And in fact, it's just had to work like that. And, so the landowners are a big part of what we do. And it was started to support the community. Our mission statement hasn't changed from when we set it out 21 years ago, which was, to create opportunity for people along the route. And people along the route are everyone, from the massive landowner, the big corporates, right down to the subsistence farmers that work along the route. So, and that's sort of that's where I balance things. We have our trials and tribulations, but, it's worked for 21 years. We've never had to change a route because we don't get on with some landowner. We've stuck to the same route basically for 20 years.
Sure.
And that's testament to your character, Glen. Really it is. No, it is.
I think I'm fortunate because, I grew up there. So I grew up with I spoke Zulu before I spoke English basically. And I grew up riding my bike with little mates, and so I understood where it was nice to ride. When we first started, people didn't know single track, the single track wasn't the thing. Although I grew up my whole life riding on cattle paths because there weren't roads, So and I grew up like adventure riding. It was like, okay, we're going to ride from this oaks farm to that oaks farm. And that's why Sani started. It wasn't for an event. It was because I wanted the challenge of riding from our home farm to where Mandy grew up, which is Scottburgh, and I wanted to get there off road, and we were riding it for years before Sani actually even was a dream. Then when our kids actually needed to go to school, we thought, well, I was on the board, and for my sons, I was in charge of fundraising, and if anyone's done a private school, they'll know how important funds are the massive part of it. And I got onto this, and there were all sorts of ideas, cake sales and Greek evenings, and you bake a cake and I bake a cake, you buy mine, I buy yours. I mean, there's no money. You're not going to make money. No. So straight away I realized, you know what? I love mountain biking. I've pedaled Dusi all my life. I understand the sort of market. Not knowing the mountain biking market actually is very different to the paddlers and the trail runners but it was a good thing. And I thought it'd be easy. We just put a marquee up, throw a whole lot of mattresses in the corner, and the guys would just sleep in this massive marquee, which like we used to on the Umko Canoe Marathon, And there's a generator with no extension cord, so the fumes are in the marquee, and So I thought that'd be easy. And little did I know, the banks were all getting involved then, so we had all the private clients. And of course, that wouldn't have gone down well with them. In fact, our first few years, we used to move all the tents to each race village. I mean, we used to have long drop toilets because we were farmers and we could dig a hole. And, it was, we didn't have the money to have proper toilets. And I mean, they weren't even like Sani2C or, there weren't those things. No. And we used to literally dig one hole and then pick the long drop up, which we built ourselves, actually. It was made out of a security hut, I think. And then we would move it to the next race village. And I mean, I remember Mandy, she was in charge of logistics and stuff. And she picked the toilet up and a guy was still inside. So, she didn't physically pick it up. The guys that were loading picked it up, but she was chasing everyone out the race village to get to the next race. Sure. So it was a hell of a learning curve. And I've got photographs of guys at Jollyvet. Macadamias there now are massive, and they're leaning against this minute little macadamia tree where the guy's got a massive smile on his face, and here's some farmer with a bucky sucky, and he's just, and I think, look at that guy, he's so happy. If I had to do that now, and you just blast the guy's bike with a bucky sucky, I mean, it would be scary. So the transition, I mean, what's happened in 21 years now is just, but it's good, been great. And so many sponsors were attracted to the event, and it's benefited so many people, if you think of what Sani's done just on its own, how many people actually, like Glencairn's like a success story of note, I mean, it's an award-winning wedding venue. So it's rewarding.
Yeah, that's great. Hey?
And without sponsors, would Sani continue without sponsors?
No, I mean, the books just wouldn't balance. And I think the standard...
Wouldn't make business sense, obviously.
Yeah, and I mean, the standard of where we are, it's expensive, especially a point-to-point event. A stage race that bases itself in one place. I mean, if you really had to sit down and work the costs out, we only need one lot of showers, one lot of caterers, no logistics of carting guys' stuff, of all the schlep of all the staff that you need in all the various places. A point-to-point event is difficult, and I mean, I see why people are staying in a race village for more than one night, longer events, and why a lot of events now only have one race village. And we're just fortunate that we've had some really good sponsors over the years, and we were able to, when we had the numbers, we were first to market, so that was a huge bonus. It wasn't because we were good; it was just we were and we were able to do stuff. So we were able, and we reinvested back into our business. So we built race villages, that have permanent showers and toilets, and we don't have that cost anymore every year, And I mean, even the communities, they see the numbers are not like they used to be, and they accept it, and they understand that actually things do have their ups and downs, and
And just speaking of that, at one point you had 3 races. And this was like probably 2012 to about 2018 or so. You had 3 races, which were pretty much all full. You must have had around 4,000 riders.
I think our biggest year was 4,500. So, and it was too many. It was a nightmare. It wasn't fun anymore. There was always issues.
I guess with that many people, there's a lot of expectations and pressure.
And just the pressure, actually, And so to me, it's super important that everyone's having fun. From the farmer's wife who's waking up at 3:00 in the morning to go and make sure that breakfast is ready.
Yes.
To the guy who's standing with the flag, at a dangerous point on the route.
Yes.
For 3 days, to come back and do that for 3 days with that sort of numbers and pressure. And none of our crew are professionals, or very few of them. I mean, obviously our television crew and some of our media guys and that are all, that's what they do for a living. But the vast majority, they're doing it for some organization. So they're doing it for their kids' school, or they're doing it for their farmers association.
So a lot of volunteers.
They volunteer for their school, So they don't get paid for it.
No.
I mean, some cases they might get reimbursed by the organization because they do a lot, and they might travel and go and collect stuff, or do a lot of stuff. But generally, most of them, and we try and encourage it, that most of them, that money, we pay the money to the organization. What they do after that is up to them, So we'll pay them a percentage more than what it would cost. So for the catering, or say we would pay them like 10% more than a caterer would cost or charge. They get a lot of their stuff would get sponsored.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of their shopping list is basically sponsored. So they make really good money, and they deserve to, because they wouldn't be there otherwise. The farmers that are left on the land are profitable, and they don't actually need to do this, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And they really bend over backwards to do it. So
it's amazing.
Yeah.
And obviously the numbers, not just in your event, but all events have dropped in mountain bike events. Even before COVID, there was a bit of a drop
for sure
coming in. And obviously there's been a bit of recovery recently, but do you think that it'll ever reach those heights again? Or do you think we're just like in an extraordinarily purple patch for mountain bike stage racing? Because all the other events were also flourishing at that time. Yeah,
it was like the ostrich boom, I think. And I related to that. And I mean, that's where we think it's going, and that's where our decisions are made around that. It's never going to get back to where it was. I think just the pressure on everyone, just on time pressure, beside the cash, time with their families, time away from work, that pressure just mounts all the time. But, in saying that, I remember sitting on the plane with the chairman of Comrades Marathon coming to Joburg in the early years, and we had a long chat, and they were really worried about Comrades.
Yeah, I remember that, actually.
And you look at it now, 24,000 runners in Comrades. But then again, the Comrades not a fully serviced stage race. I think, I'm not even sure what I should know because I'm running. But it's like $1.5 grand or something, maybe $2 at the most.
Yeah.
Very different to a stage race. So, and it's easier to do, You can go out for a good hour run in the morning, and you've done a lot. So mountain biking is not easy, There's a lot of stuff you got to take. It's a lot of travel, but it's pleasurable.
It is.
It's fun.
It's probably fun, and it. Life's too short for you not to do something that you really enjoy doing.
I also think the event market got quite saturated. There was a lot of stage races that came along.
Yeah. No, there were
as well.
Yeah.
And
so then people had no
that's
choice.
not a bad thing,
Yeah.
It's good. And you know what? You shake that tree every now and again, and all the poor fruit falls out.
Yeah.
And then, this fruit that stays. I mean, it's happened in farming.
Yeah.
You look at farms now. The guys that are farming now are, properly good, and they're doing well, and it's good for the country, You just get happier people, and
what are you doing about attracting? Because when we do our annual survey, we can see that the majority of people that take the survey, and that's South African mountain bikers, are aged between 35 and 60, I guess. And there's quite a small amount, in the younger age groups that take our survey anyway. But there's a lot of youngsters riding mountain bikes. How are you thinking of getting them interested in your event in particular and stage racing in general?
Yeah, so it's really difficult with Sani. For one, it's a point-to-point event, so it's always going to be more expensive than most. It should be anyway. It's not actually. It's like, if you look at it and compare it and see what you get, it's actually really reasonable compared to a lot of them. But it's still it's too long for it's just not legal, basically.
Yeah.
So we are launching a 2-day stage race based at Glencairn.
Okay.
Price super low.
Yeah.
Because everything's paid for there.
Yes.
And we want to have a some sort of loyalty we've got to build towards Sani, and hopefully one day, people do that. They see what we
They'll
do.
graduate to doing
Yeah,
Sani.
I mean, you see it with the good events. People, they know what they're going to get, and they go back to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sort of a breeding ground. I mean, we haven't launched it yet, but that's the plan.
Okay.
And so it'll be catering basically for families and for youngsters, even for 2 guys or 2 girls that want to ride.
Yes.
So cater for them, but big family vibe, because that's how I've grown up. I mean, my grandchildren are now got balance bikes, so it's not just one generation.
Yeah.
It's and I know you guys with Cade and that too. It's like super special when you see that. It's great to have a dads and lads fishing or camping trip or something.
Yeah.
But when we really suffered together climbing Iconic, some special bond that's built between the two of you. So we really want to keep encouraging that. And I mean, that's our family. That's been their life. They grew up going to events, and before you knew it, they were in a boat paddling Dusi, and they were on mountain bikes crashing next to you. And, so I mean, we just want to share that.
Yes.
Sani is the pleasure for Sani, for all of us actually, is seeing the pleasure people get out of it. So that's a real reward. It's never about the cash. In fact, I never know how much money we've made. Mandy keeps the purse strings, and I just get told you can't spend any more money, or you can't do this year, or you can't do that. So to me, and to all of us actually, it's never about no, we're not going to make enough money, or we can't. It's about the real reward to me is seeing the pleasure of the riders and the communities and what they get out of it, and also just our sponsors, like they're also grateful for what we do. And I mean, we do it because we love it. We're passionate about it. It's not a job to us at all.
And how do you, when there's 3 events happening, there's obviously, there was 3 events last year, there's going to be 2 this year.
Yes,
right? When there's multiple events, how do you get to the prize givings for each so quickly?
Yeah, we've worked it out over the years. So we started Glencairn with like registration and race briefing at 4. Then we head off to this is when all 3 events were running, and then we head off to Mackenzie, and that's early. That's like 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Finish there, and then straight down. We fly a bit while there's daylight, and then we drive.
Oh, okay.
And
I'm sure everyone thought you had a twin, an identical twin.
Look, I just think it's super important that you don't be seen to be favouring one or other event. And I mean, a lot of people ask me, which was your favourite event, and they all they're different in little ways, but it doesn't matter where I am at which event I'm at. It's still like I forget sometimes where am I, which event am I actually at, and then like okay, I'm at the adventure still. And
see if there's people wearing baggies.
And you've got you mentioned Iconic earlier. When did that hill
it was very debatable. We'd like, know what?
I remember, I think I did in my first Sani in 2012, and I don't remember Iconic. I remember, I think we used to ride on a gravel road.
It was like 2018, 19, but it was there, but not there. Sort of there, you could take could take Kleobafazi. It was an alternate route.
We were given the alternate route the year we did
2018,
and then everyone said, that Kleobafazi is harder than Iconic. So I said, okay, guys, we'll just settle this thing. We'll just have one event. And I mean, I know it's hard, but life is hard, and I think there's so many life lessons to be taught from sport. Doesn't matter what sport it is, and if you've crossed those. I mean, I remember our kids riding to Cape Town when they were 14 years old at their school they were at. I mean, you're a girl and you're 15 years old, 14 years old, and you ride all the way to Cape Town over 20 days, I think it took them. And you get to Cape, I mean, surely nothing's impossible. They've paddled around Mauritius, I mean, a lot of grown-ups would think twice about ever paddling around Mauritius.
Yeah.
And, I mean, doesn't matter what life throws at you, then you're gonna somehow know that you can beat it. And that's part of what Iconic is about, It's about really suffering.
Yeah.
It's about getting you out of bed, having some commitment to train, because you also think you're bulletproof after a while, and it's going to hurt you, and you're going to regret not training if you don't do it. So, and you're going to wear that kit with a lot more pride, and you're going to have that little bangle and suffer and look at it going up Iconic and thinking, well, you know what, I'm actually privileged to be able to actually just be riding my bike,
Exactly.
So there's a lot of, it's more than just a hill thrown in.
It definitely has its own character and spirit, and I think I wrote last year, don't ever take that hill out, because I don't ever make this race easier, because it must be hard.
It's got to be hard. You can't just come to Sani and like wing it. If you do, you're not going to enjoy yourself. You're going to be grumpy. You're going to be super grumpy for a lot of the time, and
that's why I also like the fact that the last day is a bit longer than it used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be about 60 odd Ks, and now it's 80 odd.
Yeah, it was almost an excuse for a third day.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great because it was fast and like flat out, and it was like, I mean, we used to call it fast and furious, but it was a bit of an excuse compared to the other days, to have such a hard day in the middle and then have like a
almost
day.
A play day.
Yeah. And now every day's hard.
Yeah,
I mean, the first day to me, it bites me every time I ride it.
Yeah, when I look at my suffer scores from this last year, my day one was my most suffering.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't really feel like it, it is quite a tough day.
No, it's properly tough. And I think you also, like, because it's a team event, your partner and you haven't so you hide your suffering a little bit too long. And by day two, you all understand, okay, you're the nail and I'm the hammer, so I'm going to look after you. But like day one, you're still trying to be the hammer, but you're not, and so it's a good thing, because it's a partner's, you need to build that too with your partner. And maybe Cade was stronger than you last year.
On day one. No, actually, he cramped on day one. I didn't experience.
That's also a thing. I mean, like cramping comes at like, for me, 70 Ks on the nose.
Yeah.
And so I always thought, it's got to be more than 70. You got to suffer a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But quickly, just going back to Iconic.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I've ridden 2 Sanis. One for the weather, we didn't go down the valley. But when you stand on that stage and those people come up claiming that they have ridden Iconic.
Yeah.
How do you keep a straight face?
Well, you know what? You've got to live with that if you're going to. Yeah. So I just think, I don't think so, because it's
I think
not
a lot
easy.
of us sit there and I'm like, no.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we've tried to think, well, how can we really police it? But
I don't think you can.
You got to live with that, and if you're going to live your life that way too, by like.
Yeah, it's an integrity test, I guess.
Yeah.
The actual climb itself is a physical and mental test, and then there's the integrity test.
Yeah, and I must say, I see this box of socks, and I think, we're going to have so many socks left over, and and there's there's people just keep coming, but look, you've got to live with it. It's like if you want to pretend you rode.
For those who aren't familiar with this, if you climb the whole way up Iconic without putting a foot down or without stopping, you get a pair of socks that evening at the prize giving, and that's
and you get to walk on stage.
It's
make a bit of a fun.
It's got a big moment,
fair.
It is a bit. Yeah.
So I must say, I've also doubted when I look at some people walking up there and think, I saw that guy riding, and he definitely didn't look like he was a strong climber to get up that.
I mean, to get up there, you got to be lean and mean.
Yeah. It's not easy.
You can't be you kind of not. Like worked hard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm relatively fit, but last year I stopped out. It wasn't even maybe a third of the way up where it was quite rocky and rough.
That's where it's hard.
And I was like,
it's the first 2
your heart rate. So you either I thought, well, I either vomit or I stop. And so I stopped.
Yeah. No, listen, if you make those first, you come, and the problem is if you don't know it, you think, well, there's no ways. But it's those first two.
Yes.
If you get over those,
Yeah.
then you can have bad luck and someone just like stops in front of you, or you just roll over a rock or something stupid. But the hardest part is keeping your heart rate down.
Yes.
I always say, if you can just, like you think, okay, I'm going to click up.
Yeah.
You know, one more gear. This is all right. Don't just stay in there. Just get that heart rate down. Just watch that heart rate and like try and just, even if it's 2 beats, because it's just that 1 beat that says I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, and if you are strong enough just to have that like a little bit in reserve for if you like balance is a problem, and you just got that little extra power. But if you're on the limit and your heart is jumping out your throat, it's
I've
super
got
hard.
no disillusions that I'm not going to make it. I'm not gonna make
A lot of people just say, okay, you know, I'm not
I'll get
ready
as far
for
as
it.
I can.
Yeah, and that's
That's
also
my
okay. You
challenge,
know,
but-
that's fun. It's
It's got sections that aren't that technical, so you can actually ride a bit and then get off and walk. So it's
for sure.
it's not inconquerable, and it's not
No.
that formidable, but it's hard if you want to try ride it.
No, it's really hard, and it's a great challenge. And you know, also related to riding up Sani, once a year we ride up Sani. Well, I try and ride up
Sani
Sani. The kids ride up with one leg basically, but it's been like a challenge for me every year. And you get so nervous when you get to those last switchbacks at the top of Sani that you're going to like lose it.
Yes.
You know, you know,
Got that
physically you can
far.
do it, but like it's technical, you know, and especially in
very
winter
good.
when it's dry, there's like big rocks, and suddenly some tourist comes and he's not giving you one bit of inch, and you got to run into the loose stuff on the side. And so you get nervous. It's the same at Sani. The worst is the bottom, but you can be nervous all the way because you're not quite sure what that guy who's pushing his bike, is he going to really move out the way or not for me? So, but
It's definitely added something to the event, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because there was never there was a lot of climbs, but there were never, you know, a climb with a name is always good to have in a race. I always say you need talking points on a stage. So that stage got 2 talking points. Got the Umko Drop.
It's a bit like Tankwa's got Marina.
Yeah, that's a
I mean,
killer
Marina up is 100%. To me,
descent.
it's going down the other side. I was rode it with Bianca last year, not this year. And going down the other side, there were these guys stopped and they're like, "You guys okay? Can I help you?" They're just resting their arm. They had such bad arm pump. And I can see it because I was suffering my arm. Like you get such bad arm. But it's important. I think it's great to have that stuff.
Yeah, you need it. I mean, mountain biking should be tough.
No, it must be. Everything must be. Life must be tough because that's what like pushes you. You know,
Builds character.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so
it does. It pushes.
So
you properly.
and that's why Iconic's there, because it needs to make you tough. You know,
and then just speaking of the big descent, obviously that is world famous. You know, I think people that have ridden it from other parts of the world probably will consider it a mountain biking highlight. I would. think. I mean, it's certainly one of my favorite pieces of trail in my
and I meant
so
to think
far.
it when it was hand built over years. It wasn't just a one off with a little mini excavator, and which nowadays you got mini excavators to help you out. And I mean, it was literally hand built, which was great because it was, we were achieving what we were trying to do, which with our mission statement. And that, so that community who live there, in fact, I spoke to Jama today on my drive up here, and they always got ideas, It's very hard to like change too much. But berm here and there, and it's a spare. But in saying that, you have all these sections like Butterfly Valley and Murray's Meander and Silseba's section and Nick's Pass and Yankees Doodle, and they all had their names. But the other day I was busy working on the route, and I was on my motorbike spraying actually, and there was this beautiful section. It doesn't even have a name, and I actually videoed it and showed I sent it to the kids on our family group or Sani group or whatever it is, and I said, you know what? I mean, we talk about all these things, but there's actually other sections that are just so flowy and natural. I mean, it goes through like a canopy of natural bush, and it's on day 2 actually, when everyone's so buggered actually. You've got past Hufflet's Church, Second Tabby, top of Knocker, and you're going down now, and there's a section that like just flows. It doesn't even have a name.
I know what you mean. It's a really flowy, fun piece.
And you can
in the
just
forest.
Exactly. And so there's so many sections that actually don't have names, but they're not ARB. You know, it's not just
No,
like,
they're not
okay.
arbitrary. And
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
many races around the world wish they had one or two of those sections, and
Yeah.
you've got an abundance
Yeah.
of them. And
Yeah, and I mean, they've all been like fine-tuned over 21 years now. I mean, even this year, there's a few subtle changes that for those guys that have ridden a lot, they'll notice them, you know.
yeah,
And we've done that. We can't take you down a different valley because you got to get to Scottburgh, basically. That's 300 Ks of riding over 3 days. It's not easy to move it around.
and obviously your main target market is the average mountain biker, but you always cater for the pros, which I suppose if you want it to be taken seriously as a race, you have to, and it's become a UCI graded race now, which obviously must cost you more money because you have a minimum prize money and media coverage, and I suppose you might even have to help some of the pros get there.
Yeah.
Because they're not all full-time, well, they're not all professional. Some of them are just full-time riders. So, how's that? How is that for you when you have the pros?
I think it's
and you cater for them?
you need the pros there, and you know, the general mountain bikers want them there. They want to see them and know they've ridden the same route as the pros, and check how fast they went. We took twice as long as they took, you know.
Yes.
And I remember going to watch the Tour de France and riding up Alpe d'Huez and like warming up all morning and riding nothing else and thinking, okay, I'm going to clap this Alpe d'Huez. and you get timed, you know, you get a number board and everything. And you get timed and photographs and everything. And I thought I'd done super well. I think one or two guys came past me on the climb. It was like a bit of an event that you could ride whenever.
Yes.
You went over Matt and then over Matt at the top. And I thought, I'm a clap Robbie Hunter. I mean, he would have ridden 300 Ks. He's already ridden for 2 weeks. Yeah. He must be stuffed. And he rides up there, you know, just not wanting to get eliminated. Yeah. And I think he beat me by like 8 minutes or something stupid. So, you know, I think riders at Sani want to know that they've ridden with the pros. And we've been really fortunate that the pros have supported us like we do, because we've initially in the early years, we used to treat them like everyone else. We used to say everyone's the same. So if you're the CEO of Vodacom, in fact, he was there, and we never knew he was there, Peter Ace.
Peter Ace, I know Peter, yeah.
And for years, I never even knew he was there. He stayed in a tent with everyone else farting around him and everything else that goes on in the race village. And so everyone is a VIP at Sani. So it's great to have the pros there, and we do like help where we can. Yes. But they're as important to us as the guy who's like really saved up for a few years to be able to afford to come to Sani, you know. So always his wife's bought it to him for his 40th birthday present or something. So yeah, we really do appreciate them racing, and I mean it's great. And I mean I love it. I'm a racer. Yeah, my own mind.
Competitive. Yeah, runs in the family. I see.
Yeah, and it's important for events to be a race. I mean, it does cost extra, and I mean, for one, you've got to build a route, and we've done that around Glencairn. In fact, it's like I'm really excited about that. So for the prologue, and the guys can go and ride that, you know, as a warm up ride if they get to registration early. Yeah, and go out onto
actually a great idea because you know.
And just feel what the altitude is like for those that come from Cape Town and stuff. Maybe Joburg's not so bad, but to just go out and ride the route, and then and it's right in the mountains basically around Glencairn.
Yeah, it's beautiful there.
Sure. Yeah, and it does add a bit more, and to be able to sort of just reward the pros with some points.
Yes, good. That's great. And then with regards to this year's event, you obviously. It's early May, first sort of week of May. Weather-wise, it's a stable time of the year.
That's our best time of the year. Yeah, you can see the bookings at Glencairn is like for weddings.
Oh, okay.
It's the best time of the year. Yeah. It's generally the weather. Our summer rain's gone. Yes. You know, we obviously got to be super careful of fire season with our timber companies that we go through, Sappi and Mandy and others, and so we can't go to when it's dry, but when it's dry, it's also cold, so it's frosty. So you can have a cold front come through with snow, and it would be a nightmare in a little canvas tent. So it's still warmish, although it's nice and chilly in Glencairn, which is great, because by the time you get to Scottburgh, you get that humidity and the sea breeze and the warmth, and you realize that you've actually gone quite a distance.
Yeah, it is
Travelled.
actually it's a proper journey.
So yeah. So it's a great time of the year actually. Yeah, in fact, that end of April, beginning of May is prime time for.
Yeah. It's actually very stable in many parts of the eastern side of the country. There.
Yeah. But you never know, you know. I mean, already today here in Joburg, and have this massive half-felt storm, I think.
Yeah.
You know, so hopefully it's not bad omen, but if it is, we take it from whence it. I mean, nothing we do about it, and we make a plan, you know. And
the one year I think I've done I think 5 editions of Sani2C, and 2 of them rained and we couldn't go through the valley. But the one year, some guy decided he's definitely going to go through the valley. I think he got lost or something.
You know what? And they were fit, young, strong guys. They'd come to me. They snuck off, you see, because they wanted to do this Umko Drop. Never heard about it.
I think they were Joburg boots.
Yeah, they were. But you know what? I don't hold it against them, because I probably would have done the same if I was in their shoes. And they snuck off, and some farmer was coming, and he wasn't even at the halfway stop yet. He was coming, so they went down Umko, and then they eventually were so tired that they actually came back on a district road, and they just figured out, okay, this road is going to get us closer to the race village. So let's just, and anyway, the farmer came, he sees these 2 mountain bikers, they've been lost. And he was coming for his pub duty at night. I mean, they weren't even halfway yet, and it was getting dark.
Wow.
I mean, so it's just impossible. I mean, heaven or hell is called heaven or hell because of that, because it's either heaven, but when it's hell, if you get a little bit of too much rain on there, you literally cannot, you wash your bike in the river, in Umko, and you put it on the trail, and you think, okay, I'm going to get, you don't even do one revolution, it's just jammed up. It's like, it's not like the Cape. I mean, I remember the Epic had rain, and it was like running down the single track, and the Oaks were riding through this water, just running, you know. I mean, you would not be able to ride.
No, well, it's like have more clay, like a clay kind of
red.
Yeah.
It's not even clay.
It just gathers on the wheels, and you actually can't actually pedal. The wheels.
No, it's Morby stuff. And I mean, we farm on red Huttons at home, and that's like high clay. But in that Umko Valley, it's like super clay. I don't know what it is. It's like
it's
glue.
A hybrid.
Oh no, it's hectic. It's hectic. Yeah. I mean, I remember once with the kids. They were still at school, and they came home on a Friday afternoon. They said, "Dad, we want to go down Umko quickly." And Mandy dropped us at the top of the Umko, and then she's got to go all the way around to fetch us, you see. And she had a brand new car. And I don't know what reason she came in her car. And she had the rackles on the back or something instead of in the bucky. And there was a storm coming. But you know, when you really want to go, you like, it hasn't rained enough. It'll still be good.
Yeah.
Mandy, wait, 9 o'clock at night. So 4 o'clock at the top, 9 o'clock at night, she picked us up at number 8 Rapid, which is before the floating bridge. Wow. We literally had to carry the bikes. You could not push them.
Jeez.
And so it's like
treacherous.
So Mandy's brand new car.
So those decisions are not taken very lightly.
No, and it's, you know what? I mean, I cry because so much work is put into that Umko Drop, and it's you know, that community there, I mean, they, out of their own hat, the old Gorkos that used to work there 10 years ago or 20 years ago even, I mean, they go on their own accord all the way to town, or they send the kids or whatever, and they buy balloons, you know, and they put little ribbons up there. I mean, it's such an occasion for them because they don't see anyone for the rest of the year. I mean, it's only them and their, you know, there is no
little community.
Very remote. It's scarily remote, actually.
And the future of the race itself, obviously, you've invested so much in it. It's got a good future. You made sure that your children are going to make sure of that as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess in 20 years' time, we will all be very old people by then.
Yeah.
And our youngsters will be our age, you know. And,
exactly.
So I guess we all hope that it continues and that mountain biking remains as fun as it is. I'm sure it will always be fun.
Hopefully we'll be doing it on e-bikes then.
Yeah. Look,
still be doing it just on e-bikes.
No, I mean, e-bikes are a big part of, and it's because of that. But so are the youngsters that we need to get into the sport, you know. So we have to have some sort of breeding ground for them, and hopefully there's some loyalty and they come and ride Sani at some point. But I mean, it can't afford to stop.
No.
I mean, our communities just every single school's so dependent on it.
That's amazing.
Although I've been like trying to say to them, hey guys, you need to have that big fund where, for some whatever reason, we can't. But it's hard. It's hard. But they've done really well. A lot of our big schools are like, Linford, the school that Sani started for, is highly rated. And other areas where farming communities try to do the same thing, but didn't have a Sani. They fell way behind. And, to see the facilities at the school, and they deserve every last thing they've worked for. Their indoor centres and their astro, and they're proper, and they need to be, because if those wealthy farmers would send their kids to the schools that did have astro if there wasn't it. So we need to keep those youngsters coming back into the farming communities. And if you don't have a good school, your son's going to say to his wife, hey, let's go back farming. She's going to say, where the kids are going to go to school. She's not going to move. So, and that we understood from day one. And it was why we did what we did, actually. And never ever thinking that it's going to get way beyond that, and we're going to be building sidewalks and stuff.
And yourself, you obviously still keep fit. Did you say you're running at the moment?
Well, no, run and ride. So I'm riding tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm doing one of the trail seekers. I enjoy them, and they offer really good events. And so you need to be staying like up to date with what's going on, and there's no better way than actually being involved yourself. So I still ride a lot. Running's nice and easy because you can run. You can run half an hour and you've had a good session. So riding is a little more difficult, but I love riding. And at my age, you go for an 18K run, and the next day you hobble around. So you get on your bike and you go ride it. You come back and you feel so much better. So I basically ride one day, run one day at the moment. But so I do Comrades, and
have you done a few Comrades?
I've done 10.
10.
So this is my 11th. I said, that's it. Got my green number. It's ticked off. I'm too old for this. I'm getting sore. I take long to recover. But I'd only do one more if I run with one of the kids.
Okay.
So my son said, I'm going to make you suffer that.
You shouldn't have said that.
So I'm committed to run with him. And but it's good.
And you've done a lot of Dusi canoe marathons as well.
I've done like 39 Dusis, which is a great event. So it's really sad that just the water quality is so bad. So you end up, thinking you're staying fit and healthy, and then you get some funny thing. But there are other rivers that are good. Umko is still clean, and the track challenge is a great event. So there are a lot of good events around. So that was basically where my endurance thing started. Really was paddling.
Sure, that's great. I think that's pretty much it. I think we threw all our questions. I don't know if there's anything else you want to chat about specifically.
No, I think it's all good. I could chat about Sani forever.
And it's great because you're so passionate about it that you just speak about it in a way that is engaging. It's not like I don't ever feel like, I always feel like I need to listen to what you're saying because it's usually important. What's well described.
I don't know. It's it's been a big part of my life, I think, I suppose. Mountain biking has been. I started riding. There weren't mountain bikes.
No.
There were like back pedal brake bikes.
Yes.
But it was mountain biking.
You were riding off-road.
Yeah. And that's 50 years ago.
Yeah, amazing.
So it's mountain biking is a massive part of my own. Obviously, Sani happened a little bit by default. And before Sani, I used to invite a few mates that I thought were tough enough to get lost all day. And we used to go and ride and just try and find a route and bash through brambles and and then just sharing. It's great to share that sort of passion. And
is that how you found the Umko Drop?
Absolutely. Sure. Exactly like that. I was riding with two twins, Roger and Simon Mann, and we used to always go around, and we were riding around the edge of the Umko, and we all stopped and we looked at this amazing view. And we could see a cabbage patch like far down. And we said, there's got to be a path. I mean, these guys that live down there have got to go and like work there.
Yeah.
You know, there's no one else. So there's got to be some track.
Yeah.
And we just like all looked at each other head off, and just dropped down into the Umko. And we picked our way. I mean, obviously the route isn't where it is today. It was like paths and bashed through Lantana, and then eventually came out at St. Josephine's Bridge, which is like way down. And somehow I got, it was in the days of before cell phones too.
Before GPS. So you're like,
no,
how would you
long before.
Work that route
We
out?
started Sani long before there was GPS, long before there were cell phones.
Yeah.
So Mandy used to drop me in the middle of nowhere, normally with a mate, most times.
Yeah.
And we would say, okay, we'll phone you from wherever we get to.
Yeah.
We sometimes we think, okay, we're going to get to high flats. But we wouldn't, because we got lost in a valley that we didn't know about and we hadn't looked at. I mean, there was no Google to look at. And there were very few people that knew where it was. And we wouldn't, I mean, we literally didn't know where we were going. We knew where we wanted to get to, but not how to get there. And then we would phone her. And I remember once the kids had like it was like a camping thing at the coast. And I was desperate to like finish this last little section to Scottburgh. And I got one of the farmers was going back to Glencairn. He stayed at Jollyvet actually, right? He used to farm at Jollyvet, Donald Roosevelt. We bought Jollyvet Race Village from him, coincidentally actually. So he was going back to Glencairn, and he was leaving at 3 a.m. or something to go and burn his sugarcane, which they do before the sun comes up. So I said, Donald, I'm going to come with you. And hopefully I'll get to the beach before Mandy's really mad with me that I wasn't on the beach. So I had my mountain bike at the beach, and he thought I was mad. And hey, I put the last few pockets of like sugar in my pockets to make sure, because you suffer. Sometimes you run out of sugar properly. So I grabbed something, whatever there was there camping, were long before the days of energy bars and things. And he dropped me, and I just slotted everything right, all the cane roads. So the cane farmer's got lots of roads, actually. So you like, but normally you get the wrong valley, and then you got to hike your way all the way back, and slotted these things perfectly right. And I arrived there while everyone's cooking bread, and they said, "Did you enjoy your ride?" And no one knew I'd ridden from Jollyvet to the coast. To Happy Wanderers. Actually, we had Happy Wanderers Caravan Park, which was just south of Scottburgh.
And that was day 3.
It wasn't quite day 3, but I'd made it to the beach, and it was, I mean, to just like that feeling. And to me, that's why point-to-point event is I don't know if I'm stupid or I've just grown up like that. But to me, it was about firstly getting from the Berg to the beach, but also about the adventure of what's around the next corner. I wonder what the race village is going to be like. I wonder what the farmers are going to say. I'm going to go chat to the farmers at the brow, at the pub, and it's like, I don't think you'd have enough adventure in your life anymore. We used to just go. I mean, as a kid, our man was going to Maritzburg, which is 100 k's from our home farm, and they used to go, and it was like the big town, it was Peter Maritzburg, and he was going. So I said, "Hey, let's ride there." After my brother, so we headed off. We only got halfway, but the challenge was there. The next time we told some mates about it at school, and Wayne Kennedy, and I mean, we had about 3 or 4 other mates with, and we trained now because we bombed out halfway there.
We knew what to expect.
We didn't even have water with us. I mean, I remember drinking out of the Umko River. We had no money with us, so we couldn't even buy anything, So you take nothing to eat,
just a spirit of adventure.
Exactly. It's like Livingston, I presume, You want it like... And the challenge was there from that point. And I remember the very first Cape Epic, you're riding from Knysna to the waterfront. The waterfront. And
in Cape Town.
And I remember being so disappointed because for whatever reason, they couldn't get to the waterfront and we went to Spear or something. And I remember just like, I never said anything to anyone, but I just like in myself thinking, you know what, I really wanted to get to the waterfront. I've been to the waterfront and that's like, you're in Cape Town, you're at the waterfront,
That's the end. That's the big
you're like, and I remember that being so, and I don't know if other people think that way too, but to me, like it's a journey.
Yes.
It's Joburg to sea,
yes.
you know? It's Dusi to sea.
Yes.
You start on the start line of the Dusi and you finish on the finish line of the Dusi. You don't start halfway out of town,
Yes,
you know?
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it's a big part of Sani to me is about trying to rekindle that
Yes.
adventurous spirit.
Yes.
And that's why you take us all the way down to the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And back,
And
because you
back
got to
up
get,
the-
yeah.
Back up that horrible last climb.
Absolutely. I mean, it was great to finish on the beach. You can't beat that finish, but it's hard working
Logistic.
with. Yeah, it's just hard working with the people
Well, it's a
that
public
run.
area, you know.
Yeah,
so,
it is. It's
so
just
hard to
really hard,
control.
and
Yeah.
and for a lot of reasons why
Yeah,
we actually changed it. But and
just
that
gotta
was the
work that
reason that we
last
had the
little
floating bridge. I mean,
Yeah.
I really thought we were going to go out to sea. I mean, that was the idea. We're going to ride out to sea on one bridge, 3 wide, over the waves, onto this big pontoon, and then catch the waves back.
Yeah.
And we tried it. I don't know if you've seen
I
the
remember
footage.
seeing a video of you riding into
And we
the ocean.
literally tried it. I mean,
Yeah.
the first time I rode out and I saw, here comes the wave. I must like give it a bit. It's like riding up a bank. You
Yeah.
need to don't stall halfway up this thing.
Yeah.
But of course, you forget the wave's going underneath you.
Yeah.
So it's going at 20 k's an hour this way, and you're going 20 k's that. It's 40 k's. You're going to hit this ramp. And I mean, it just launched me. I could not believe it was like a trampoline
Really?
into the sea.
Wow.
But you soon learn. Okay, here comes the wave. Let me slow down.
Yes.
You know. But so
So that was
I mean, it was a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
The concept,
passion.
the
I
idea
don't
was
know.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
The
just,
execution.
I mean, to think you could like catch a wave back in would have, and you can,
Yeah.
but you got to practice a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, we got it right in
So
the
I
end.
mean, it's that floating bridge. So it's interlinked. So it moves with the waves.
I mean, we imported the thing from Canada, and
Yeah,
it's got washed out to sea before. And I mean, this year we're hoping, because for quite a few years it's been a bit of a damn squib, because
it's not
the
very
lagoon's
watery.
been it's been
Really dry.
and it's dynamic, so you never really know until the week before.
Yeah.
Is the lagoon going to be open or is it going to be closed?
Yes. Yes.
But if it's closed this year, we're going to do stuff.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Because that's the last challenge, you know. It's
Yeah.
like, and it's the last thing that like scares you. I mean, the fact that we put a crocodile in, you know, in the dam. I mean, it's a stupid little thing to do, but the amount of like,
Yeah, I saw a reel with millions of views of when Jason Bull feigned getting a fright and falling in.
But I mean,
but it's incredible. It's another talking
and
point.
to this day, I mean, everyone must know it's a fiberglass crocodile. But I've seen guys break and they still don't trust it, and they go onto the other side bridge. I mean, for a few years, they were really worried that, and I mean, we used to try and like, I mean, look, we fed this crocodile lots of chickens. It's not going to want to eat you. It's like, but like, and rhinos on the route. I mean, the rhino on the route was a classic.
Oh, really?
Well, we put that fiberglass rhino.
So it wasn't a real one.
No. No, see.
No.
Point taken.
Yeah.
People believe it.
And it was down on William Mapston's farm actually at the time, and you would believe there would be rhinos there. You know, it's like African bush proper. And this one group, and they had a captain. He was like they must have been from Pretoria somewhere, all Afrikaans speaking, and he was like in charge of this group of theirs. Obviously, their riding group of mates, and he said, "Oh, mana! Now we're hiding with Mark, the TV guy, in the grass, filming this. You know, Mark LaRue, if you know him, he's a practical joker, and he just loved it. And most people ride straight past, and the rhino was only like, I don't know, 3 meters off the track, and most of them wouldn't even see it. Yeah, they just ride straight
because
past.
they're looking where they want to go.
But anyway, this captain, he saw it from quite far back. Oh, manna, dis nou gevaarlik, ons hier Hey, and they're all like backpedaled, not taking their eyes off the rhino, down the river bank, and they bumped into the helicopter there. So then, but before they did that, there was one guy he kept looking at this rhino thinking, no, this is not real. And he would stop and he would like look at this rhino, waiting for it to move. And others are all like leopards crawling around.
And it's one of those animals that doesn't really move that much.
No.
You know, if it's standing there, it just stands.
No, classic. We said if we put like a little hinge on its ear and pull the string, then we would really get a reaction. And then we said, okay, you know what we do? We always speak about the mamas. And in fact, we saw one last week, right on the route. But we've never had an issue with them.
Yeah.
But we always thought, well, maybe we'd like where there's nicely swept,
Yeah.
put a mamba on a piece of fishing line and we pull it across and we see the
Give somebody a heart attack.
No, I know. No, it's scary. I mean, I've had heart attacks with these mambas. I mean, they are super scary, but everyone I've seen has just beelined it.
Yeah,
they never, like, you hear the stories, they chase you on a horse and I mean, my guys on the farm say, "Yeah, mamba," and they've seen it chasing that oak on a horse and chasing this oak. It's
You don't want to take a chance with them. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But
Would be fun.
you are properly in deep dark Africa, and you need to be, because that's part of the adventure. You know,
Yeah.
it's part of the
I'm
risk.
so
and
looking
it's-
forward to it. eh?
Yeah.
And like Steve Sprate to me is like, I mean, you go down the Umko and then you start that work.
Yeah. That is a
It's
underrated
special.
part of the route, because
Yeah.
it's really, really beautiful and very remote and
Yeah. No, it's
quite
super
rugged
remote.
in places. And
Yeah.
one moment you're going through an orchard, and the next moment it feels like you're in the
Yeah,
middle
yeah.
of Africa. You know, it's
Yeah.
completely distant.
Yeah.
Incredible.
No, anyway, we'll talk forever.
No.
Yeah. Great, Glenn. Well, thanks very
Thanks,
much for
Sean.
joining us, and all the best
thank
for
you.
this year's race. If you
Yeah.
haven't entered yet and you are interested, you can check it out on Sani2C.co.za.
Yeah.
There's 2 different events, and you can choose which is the ideal one for you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Joe.
We'll see you there.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.